Hello students, welcome back into the another session of CS22 operating system concept using Linux and Unix. Today we are going to start our last unit as per the prescribed syllabus of Saurashtra University, that is unit number 11 called Linux Administration Ubuntu. The aim of learning this particular unit is to know something more advanced into the Ubuntu. Up till today we have discussed the basic ideas of operating system, the functionality of operating system, various types of operating system. Then we have learned that how to install one of the flavor of Unix like operating system, which is called as Ubuntu. Then we have performed various practical over this particular operating system. Parallelly with this, we have discussed about the internals of operating system by discussing process management, memory management, architecture, booting process, component of booting process called Windows Manager in terms of genome and KDE, and various other topics also. So after all this discussion, we need to conclude this particular subject by discussing the administration of Ubuntu with the various topic as prescribed into the syllabus and which you can see onto the screen. The various topics that we are going to discuss are creating Linux users and password, installing and managing Samba Server, installing and managing Apache server. So yes, we can say that these are the two web servers which we have to discuss. Already we knows something about Apache, as already we have discussed into the PHP. We'll not discuss more about this yet. Then the next one is Ldap, that is lightweight directory access protocol, one of the special protocol only provided into the Ubuntu operating system. Then domain name server called DNS. How can we optimize FTP, that is optimizing FTP services, where FTP stands for file transfer protocol, various other web services. Then lastly we'll discuss about the security of Ubuntu by the discussion of firewall and one of the special feature which only provided into the Ubuntu is wine. That means we will discuss that what is wine. From this entire chapter, the important topics are Ldap, DNS and FTP, and the last one is working with wine. So all are the list of important topic that you have to keep in your mind for preparing Saurashtra University examination. So let's start with the discussion without wasting more time. The first topic of discussion is how can we create user account with password into the Linux. So for that, just boot the Linux operating system, or you can say just boot the Ubuntu operating system that we are using. Then once the successful booting process get completed and the desktop icon get loaded, search for the terminal window. You should be the super user of the entire operating system, just keep in your mind, and then go into the terminal window, and over the terminal window type the following commands. The commands are: first, use a add user command which creates an user without any permission. So the syntax of this command is very simple. Over the dollar prompt, write down add user space and the username which you want to create. Say for example, I am creating a username called student. So for that, what I have to write? Over the dollar prompt, first I have to write add user without any space, without any upper lower case, means write all the things in lowercase. That means add user, as you can see onto the screen, then space, and then the name of user, that is student. Press enter, you will get a message that user is created. But remember one thing, if this particular user is already created, then it will shows the message like user is already available into the system. Now once the user has been created, we need to assign a permission to that particular user. Basically, there are three types of permissions are there. That is the permission of reading the content, writing the content, and appending the content. And even these three together you can assign to the particular user. But if you want to restrict the user for the specific purpose only, that means if you wish user to read only the content of data which you have created, we need to give a read permission. If you want to assign only the writing permission, that user can write anything into the directories, then we have to assign write permission itself. And suppose you want to assign read and write, that means user can handle the file and directories by their own, then we have to give append permission. So whatever the permission is there, it should be given using user mode. So the next command is over the dollar prompt you have to write user mode space -a, then sudo command, that is sudo, and the name of user that you have created, that is student. So what will be the example as per our current situation is there, user mode -a space sudo space student. Ultimately it will assign the operation the permission of appending the file and directories to the particular user. Now once the permission is assigned, step number 1 is creating the user, step number 2 is assigning the permission, and the step number 3 is activating the user. So to activate the user, command is there, that is called as su command. So just write down su minus the username that we have created. So as per our situation, what will be the thing? Su minus student. Press enter. The message will be there onto the screen. Student activated successfully. That means user is added into the authenticated directory of the Linux, or we can say Ubuntu. Now just exit from the super user login. That means just log out from the super user and try to get logged through the new username called student. You will get your own desktop screen over there. So even it justifies that Ubuntu is a multi-user operating system. Anyways, this was all about how can we create new user into the Linux like operating system called Ubuntu. The next thing that we have to discuss is an installation of Samba Server and managing the Samba Server. This sounds something funny, that what is Samba? Mind well, this is not Samba, but it is a Samba. Samba is a one type of web server which only supports by the Linux distribution. Generally, we are acquainted to use Apache web server for executing our web requests. If we are using Windows, then by default it provides IIS as a web server. Same like that. In Linux, by default it provides a Samba server. So the theory of Samba server is like this. Samba is a very popular in Linux distribution which is already installed into the operating system called Ubuntu by default. But yes, we can choose an appropriate version of Samba server as per our need. Samba server, as written over here, comes with different version. So all the different version have different functionalities. If we are not forgetting, then our entire network is divided into the 8 separate OSI layers. All these 8 OSI layers are network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, application layer, and etc. etc. So all this layer works together for executing the single task of wide area network. Generally, the usage of web server is widely used over the wide area network, where the data is going to be transmitted from one location to another unknown location. I would not like to make this more complicated discussion right now, but the simple thing is that whenever we are installing the Windows operating system, by default it provides an IIS. While installing a Linux, it provides by default an Samba server. Both of these servers are called as web server, which is used to take a request from the URL. It send that particular request to the relevant domain name. That domain name accept the request, generate the response, and send it back in format of cookie from where the actual request has been generated. So this entire thing is managed by the web server. So in Windows, the same thing is managed by IIS or Apache, and in Linux, by default, it is maintained by Samba server. Obviously, if we are not interested into the Samba and its usage, we can replace it by installing the new web server called Apache, which is very popular nowadays into the market, by just changing the configuration directory. The steps of installing the Samba server into the desired system is very simple. Just go into the official site of Ubuntu, browse to the web server portion, download the source or binary file. Second, read the installation manual successfully, which indicates that where to make the necessary changes. Third, create a one directory in which we wish to install the Samba server. That means configure the directory. Next step is just compile the server and utility program. By passing the sudo command, install the specific server file, obviously, which is the next step. Then create samba.configuration file. Once the configuration file is successfully created, which is in format of text, test that particular configuration file, whether that particular configuration file returns the valid response or not. Then, if everything goes properly, as you can see onto the screen, start the Samba server, write a small script and test the Samba redirects. In this way, we can install and configure the Samba server. The option number 2 of web server called Samba is Apache, which is widely used nowadays into the market, and especially into the web development languages like PHP, ASP.NET with C#, Coordinator, Laravel, etc. etc. So we can replace Samba server with Apache server due to its some functionality, or we can say the special features of portability, interactive, speedy, single port configuration, and so many things. So Apache is available from the official website of Ubuntu, which can be installed by just updating the apt, or by using the apt package manager. We can replace the Samba server with Apache. So for that, we need to perform the two commands over the terminal window, as you can see onto the screen. Command number 1 is sudo apt update, which updates the architecture of Linux operating system for enabling Apache. Once the architecture get updated successfully, the second command is the installation command, which installs Apache 2 into the Linux-like operating system. So the command is sudo apt install Apache 2 without any space. Rest, if the system get connected with the internet, will automatically performs its functionality. First, it removes all the credentials and the configuration of Samba server, and then it replaces the etc directory with the installation files and folder of Apache. You can observe the log file, which shows the entire percentage of installation, successful percentage of installation of Apache web server. By default, in var/www/html, this directory is created by the installation of Apache 2, where we have to create the web requests. It is something like that. If you are not forgetting, then while we are using XAMPP over the Windows, once the installation of XAMPP is done, just we are browsing through C drive, XAMPP, htdocs, and under htdocs we are creating our web root directory, and under that web root directory we are putting our programs which get executed through the URL request. So the same thing should be maintained into the Apache server, which we are installing over the Ubuntu operating system. The next topic of discussion is LDP. So first, the full form of LDP is Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It is actually a set of open protocol used to access centrally stored information over the network. See, right now in this particular chapter we are discussing about the administration of Ubuntu. That means we have to discuss something more advanced, that how Ubuntu handles the entire network in terms of local area network, that is LAN, that is LAN, wide area network, that is WAN, and metropolitan area network, that is MAN. So ultimately the goal of network is to just to share the information centrally for the other clients. So in Linux, the same thing is done using LDP, that is called as Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. As the name suggests that lightweight, this protocol is a very lightweight protocol. It works on the network layer of OSI, and the standard which is followed by this particular protocol, that is ISO standard, which is followed by this particular protocol, is X.500. Actually, LDP is a client server system where the server can use a variety of database to store the directory, where each directory optimize and perform the quick operations. When LADP client application connect to the server, LADP server, it can either query the directory or attempt to modify that particular directory of the user's request. So, in short, we can say that LADP protocol is work over the client server architecture, where server is a parental control computer and client is a various child of the entire network. Simultaneously, various client computers can send the request to the server. Server first accept all the requests and queue up all the requests as per the priority given by the central processing unit of the server system. Once the response of every request has been generated, simultaneously it will send over the common network, and whatever the client has requested will accept the response, and according to that it gives an output to the user. So this is the simple functionality of LADP. No doubt we have discussed this LADP protocol very shortly in this particular chapter, but in depth it's a big topic. Next one is DNS. The full form of DNS is domain names service. Actually, this service is a internet based services where it demonstrates the various two extension of the website. Generally, two types of domain are there over the internet. One is the generic domain and another is a country domain. That means, say for example, suppose we take a two name of website like www.google.com. So that .com is a extension called DNS, where com means commercial. Example number 2, www.saurashtrauniversity.edu. So that edu is a DNS called the domain name server service, where it indicates that this is a non-profit educational, or it is restricted to the institution or a school. Example number 3, say for example www.indianarmy.in. So this is the website which demonstrate the country specific domain. So same like that, there are various domains are available over the network internet. We need to select the specific domain as per the usage of our website. That means making the website is very simple. Once the website is created successfully with all the validations and restrictions, we need to target the specific audience. So for targeting the specific audience, even it is very necessary to select the appropriate DNS. So that's why the short concept of DNS is introduced into the last part of our chapter, that is Linux administration. In short, here I would like to conclude my today's lecture, but just I am repeating whatever I have spoken for DNS. DNS means domain name service. Basically, it was of two types, a generic and a country domain. Generic domain is generally used for the various different commercial purposes, education purposes, organization purposes, network infrastructures, and etc. While country specific domain is used only when the website is a country specific website. For India, it is used IN. For UK, it is used .uk. For US, the website it used the domain service called US, and so on. So in our next lecture, we will go for the remaining topic, that is the optimizing FTP services, optimizing the web services, how can we handle firewall in Ubuntu, and last we will discuss about the working of Wine. So 3 to 4 topics are left in this last session, which we will discuss in next lecture. Till date, thank you very much students for listening me, and have a nice day.